They see the step change as taking away workers' rights and giving them, taking away their wages.
I call David Bennett.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I just wanted to echo the thoughts of other members of the House in welcoming Toe back. Good to see you, mate, and great speech. And the way that Toe outlined the analogy between his physical being and the need for the New Zealand economy to actually have the unclogging of its arteries so that it can achieve its full potential and live its life, and in the case of Tau Henry, is something that this House should take great store in. And we congratulate members of the committee, Labor and National members, for their work on this legislation, and the Labor members are voting for this bill, which, apart from the last bit, I presume, but from that last speech you wouldn't necessarily pick that because they are actually going to vote for it. And thank you to the officials that are here as well for your work through the committee stage. Basically, what you look at in this bill is there's three basic things. There's a change to the access to corridors, and that's in Part 1 and 2. There's changes to the Railways Corporation, that's Part 3, and there's some affordable housing changes in Part 4. We're on Part 1 now, which really relates to the utilities access to transport corridors. And what essentially that means for a lay person is that if you look at a transport corridor, and as you look at our big cities and the links between our major cities throughout New Zealand, you tend to have large infrastructure corridors. And they can be the likes of the Southern Motorway going into Auckland. For example, if you drive along there, you're seeing it's a wide road. You've got power lines beside you. It is an infrastructure corridor. It covers a lot of infrastructure. You normally got rail, power, electricity, roading, all in very close proximity, following a very similar line in the important infrastructure corridors of a country. And what we're trying to do here is make sure that in future those infrastructure corridors are managed in a way which enables the best development of this country and that infrastructure going forward. Because what can happen in those cases is that areas or companies or infrastructure providers provide their own infrastructure at the detriment of the ability to provide other infrastructure or potentially new infrastructure. And you're seeing that with the government has made a commitment to the broadband rollout around New Zealand. Now that's a huge infrastructural connection that we need to make through New Zealand. And along those main arterial routes, you want to be able to have your core infrastructure, for example, around broadband to travel along those routes, and you do not want to have that constrained by the existing infrastructure that's there necessarily. And so basically what this bill enables the providers and those that are involved in that infrastructure to actually formulate codes of practice. Those codes of practice will then be taken to the Minister for approval. The Minister approves them subject to whatever the conditions, and they then basically become regulations which guide conduct in those transport and infrastructure corridors. So it's a very important role of basically safeguarding New Zealand's future economic efficiency by providing those pathways where we can structure and transfer our major infrastructure, whether it is electricity, utilities such as that, or transport in the sense of roading and rail and such like. So that's the general concept of what's been achieved in this bill. And it's been something that has been lacking for a long time, and it is something which, as you look at growing a country and taking advantage of potential technology and investment, you need to secure. And so this is a bill which rectifies an issue that hadn't been dealt with in the past, which should have been dealt with, but also safeguards and provides for the future of New Zealand growth infrastructure those vital pathways. So this is a forward-looking bill as much as a bill dealing with the case in point at the moment. And that's why it is so crucial and shows the government's long-term direction in wanting to build a stronger economy, because we're giving the building blocks here so that infrastructure can take advantage of structures that enable that investment and that delivery of key infrastructure to New Zealanders so that we can grow our economy and achieve our purposes. That's what it's about. This is what this bill is about. That's why the Labor Party is supporting, because they know it's in the best interests of New Zealand, and that's why this bill will pass through this House tonight.
I call Carol Beaumont.
Thank you, Mr Chair.